have you ever felt that as soon as you try to draw, the pen in your hand feels like an alien tool being grasped by an alien appendage? Like, wasn't drawing supposed to be this cool activity where you do this like swooshy swooshy thing and the cool stuff comes out of the pen? And like, see, the problem is like the swooshy swooshy stuff. This is, it's a problem of manual coordination and stylization, but I'm going to call it swoosh energy. So you're always trying to make the lines hit certain targets, right? You always want the lines to go through certain, right? Like you're trying to, right? And then you having to undo and redo, that feeling. And the problem is that you see, if you slow down and you hit all of those targets, well, for one thing, it doesn't feel very good. For another, the line is all wibbly wobbly and it doesn't have any of that swoosh energy, right? It doesn't feel very swooshy swooshy. So let's get rid of that. So the thing is that like, let's try and build this swoosh energy, right? And we're going to use handwriting for that. I know it sounds like a detour. It's not drawing, but you see, if your main path of development isn't serving you, then maybe that's because the solution is sitting in a detour. So, the drawings with like swoosh energy kind of look like this, right? There's a very no hesitation. They're really spontaneous. And they feel effortless. Didn't do any underdrawing on any of it, right? So when you do a swooshy line, there's kind of a certain amount of like velocity needed. Oh, and the tool that I'm using is kind of special. I'm using concepts. So if I were to show you here, if I edit the pen, you can use like an actual real pen. And the pressure is used to modulate the thickness of the stroke, but so is the velocity. So it means that when I start to go really fast, it makes the line thinner, right? Kind of like it is with a real pen. The faster you move, it can't put out ink as fast, and so the line gets thinner. So this is kind of like a really important thing for getting those swooshy lines, because then you get like the thick and you get the thin, and it's based on how fast you're moving. It just naturally creates this, right? And so reason I say I want to do handwriting is because the handwriting drawings it presents you a bunch of problems. And it's hard to improve because you got to deal with all these problems at the same time. And generally you can only improve if you're focusing on one thing at a time. So we do this detour to get rid of some of these problems so we can tackle just the problem of the swoosh energy. All right. We just want to get the manual coordination, stylization stuff, right? We just want to build up swoosh energy so that that's not a problem for us later on when we have to deal with the perspective and the composition and the construction and all the other drawing problems, right? One thing at a time. So handwriting, you can see I've done like a bunch of handwriting practice, specifically cursive handwriting, right? And it turns out that it's harder than it looks, right? Like I found right here when I was drawing the quick, writing up the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy, and I was like, oh God, I was having trouble, right? AZY or AZY, having a real tough time with that. And I just found that like the letter Z, sometimes I'm going to do too many of these, right? So we do it slowly, it'll look like that for a letter Z. A letter Y, right? If I go slowly, this is the problem. You see, I've already practiced it, so I've gotten good at it. Okay, here let's do that again. Okay, so let's see. Ooh, okay, so I had difficulty right here on that W. Let's try it again. Okay, better, but I want more swooshy. And the problem is right now, I'm not going very fast because there's this alien feeling, right? Pen doesn't feel right. Hand doesn't feel right. And so even the word just like brown, right? It's not about getting individual letters correct. Sometimes the trick is getting combinations. In this case, cursive handwriting is all about combos. You're stringing combos together. And drawing is largely about drawing a whole bunch of lines, and you're having to draw combos of lines, and you need them to all go together, right? It's like if I draw a face, right? And I want that swoosh, need that swoosh energy, right? This is like drawing a face, like drawing something with cursive, it's like I'm taking the cursive handwriting and applying it to a face. So that's why I say, learn the cursive handwriting first, because at first your handwriting will probably suck. You'll probably be going too slow. You need to be able to do this stuff fast, right? The BR, even like the this is bad. I've gotten too good at this, right? How about the letter B multiple times? Or just, yeah, we'll just do B. Oh, right? Because now I have to think about it, right? So the problem is that I have to think about it. But this is how it is with lines, right? Your lines only show no hesitation when you don't have to think about them. So let's just do a long string of B's. Ugh, right? Slow down. So what shape is the what what shape do I want for this? I guess they call it the stem, right? So the stem of this, and maybe I need to figure out. Let's say I need this stem to go between the top and the bottom, right? It's important that I show you what the struggle looks like. I have to show you something I'm not good at, so that way you can appreciate what it's like when you start practicing. You're not going to be good at it, just like I'm not good at this particular one, and what it means, what it feels like to actually work on that. So I need this stem to hit, the top and the bottom, and the B. And the other thing about handwriting is that there's actually like the lowercase letter L, right? That shape here is the same stem that you find in the letter B, right? So I got to be able to do a good L and then do that B. And maybe the problem is I'm letting, that stem of the L, ooh, right? I'm letting, here's another problem, right? Is that, see, I'm working with an iPad, and I have a cover on it. So the cover kind of makes it so that my hand, if I draw like, okay, out here is fine, right? But if I move down, okay, my hand hits the edge of the cover here, and it hits the edge of the cover here. So really, all of my drawing needs to occur within this region, all right? Because at least my hand is supported, the side of my hand is supported, and also the underside of my hand is properly supported. I could use something like oh God, what do you call it? There's a rig that you can put the iPad into, and it gives you more space, and you can take off the cover. You could get something like that to increase the amount of space you've got, but knowing where your zone, where's your drawing zone, and focusing all your drawing zone and always panning the canvas to make sure that you're always drawing within that drawing zone, that's a huge part of it, right? Like, drawing's about a lot of monkeys on your back. You got to get rid of the monkeys on your back, and one way to do that is hitting the cover or the edge of the iPad. That's a monkey on your back. You got to deal with these things. If you don't deal with them, if you don't confront your problems, you will not improve. The problem is that people don't improve because they keep thinking that if I just keep doing things the same way all the time, I'll just get comfortable with it and the problem will go away. And if it's a problem of comfort, that problem will go away. But if it's a problem of tech, you're just not doing what you're supposed to do to make the problem go away, it will be with you forever, and you're just going to get used to having that problem. You won't get better. The problem, the monkey, will always be on your back. Deal with it, confront it. So it's one thing to do a letter B. I can make a pretty nice letter B if it's by itself, right? How about the letter F? And the interesting things about the letter F is that it's kind of, you got that stem shape, which is kind of like that L shape on the letter B. You've got this bottom part, which is very much like a letter B. So, there's similarities. And I want to draw with without too much pressure, right? You got to start analyzing what are the things that are causing this line to distort. Am I putting too much pressure on the stylus? That's causing the pen. Is there something that I'm doing that is unnatural? Like, remember, right? There's the swooshy feeling, right? You should figure out what is that. What's the feeling of the swoosh? If you're doing anything that isn't this swooshy movement, if there's any kind of like unnatural pushing or gripping of the stylus, like excessive gripping of the stylus, deal with that. Get rid of that. Get rid of the unnatural movements, right? If I was to draw, I'm not even going to actually write anything. I'm just going to do a bunch of loopy movements, that kind of look like handwriting. So I guess it's like Elvish script, right? I'm doing some Elvish script right now, and it should feel and look, right? It should feel and look like this because we're trying to build the drawing experience, right? The ideal drawing experience. The ideal drawing experience is to you what you, as a kid who wanted to get into drawing, you thought drawing was going to feel like this. And then you picked up the pen, and God, it didn't feel like that. It felt like it was an alien. You were grabbing an alien tool with an alien arm, all right? Not with your own. It wasn't at all swooshy. So I'm saying we got to bring that back, okay? We got to bring back the swoosh, right? Because this is the really stylistic, feels good, doesn't it? Right? Like doing this, the scribble, the doodle, that's what you do with crayons, right? Except I guess with crayons, kind of kids grab the pen in a fist and they went, yeah, 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 right? Okay. But I'm saying we want to bring this back. We want to bring back the Elvish script, right? This stylish, refined doodle. That's how it should feel. That's how drawing should be, right? So the reason why I say the handwriting is because the handwriting actually has to be legible. The handwriting has targets, right? The letter A. Let's chain this. So let's do multiple A's. Fine. We'll do it slowly. A, and it's going to look like ass, right? We're doing this just so that we know I need to go up, I need to go horizontal, I need to go down, up, right? So first it looks like this. And the thing is that this is using a lot of finger movement. This is using a lot of finger movement, a lot of wrist movement. Oh, we're off in the danger zone, right? When I do swishy movements, right, I use a lot of my shoulder and arm, right? So let's keep going. So I'm getting a few of these extra little, right? There's a few of these extra little bits that need to go away. There's a problem where I can feel myself actually striking my body, meaning my arm, my elbow is actually running into my body. So this is where posture becomes an issue, right? You got to deal with your posture. In fact, you know what? I'm going to walk over, and instead of putting this tablet on my lap, I'm going to just put it on a table, right? Sometimes this is workspace. This is workspace and ergonomics. Oh, already better. Okay, I keep doing those little extra tails, right? The little. Okay, you know what? Let's do this. This is the greatest simplification of the movement because this, right? The letter U actually is what it is. It's like drawing the letter U. U. Yeah, it feels better. Then the letter A is more like this, right? We're just taking this end and we're just pushing it over to the side, right? That end is right here. We're just pulling that in. So we have to go up. Yeah, we have to go. And it's got to be done in one motion, right? So you can try doing individual ones first. Because the thing is that like every time you lift the stylus up or the pen up, it's like taking a breath. So when you're doing cursive handwriting, it's like you're working on your lung capacity. You're diving, and the longer of a string, the longer your combo goes, the longer your dive is, the more you're working on that lung capacity. Let's again, you'll notice I'm always moving the working area into the sweet spot of the tablet, right? My sweet spot's like around here. Sweet spots move around depending on your posture. You know, this is an ancient. This is like handwriting is an ancient skill. Let's zoom out a bit. Here, I'm gonna because the thing is that the pen doesn't work so well when I zoom in, like the brush that I've created. And I guess the other thing I want to do is I want to work out the glyph, right? So it's like when you look at fonts, every single one of those letters is like its own separate glyph. It's its own separate, it's like a logo, right? What would the ideal letter A look like? What, like after we do a bunch of these, which one looks the best? What's the ideal of that shape? This is this is about actually, caring. You actually care about the brushstroke that you're putting down, right? It's like you care how that letter A is going to look like. What does a good letter A look like? If you can't even make a good letter A, a good letter B, a good letter C, what hope do you have in terms of drawing a good eye, a good face, a good nose, a good hand, a good finger, a good fingernail, a good anything? If you're drawing ripples or wrinkles or, you got to draw your straights or your curves, you've got to figure out, people want to work on their stylization. What's your signature? What's the thing that makes that, how are you going to draw something? Then you have to confront it, right? The only way you solve problems is when you confront them. And I think that the reason why so many people take so long to improve anything is because they're spending all their time running away from the problems that they should be confronting. I tell you one thing about like look, a lot of people, one thing I want to say about the handwriting is that if you were able to get to the point where your handwriting was really good, you'd have a timeless skill. You'd have a skill that you know, like I said, handwriting is an ancient skill. It's been there forever, right? If you, I actually have to concentrate when I do this. It's like people are always trying to they're always trying to show off, right? They need their status symbols. They need they need their fancy Rolex watches, their fancy cars, the stuff that they show off on TikTok, on Instagram, or whatever. And I'm just saying, look, anyone can. Well, if you have the money, you can buy these things, right? Status symbols are about look how cool and awesome I am. But the thing is that if you have an actual skill like nice handwriting, that's a way better flex than saying here's this thing that anybody with the same amount of money could have bought. Right? I'm like thinking, nah, I don't like the one that's too thick. This one's kind of nicer. I like the variation of this one, but I got to work on maybe the lower part, right? This is the analysis. You go into it and you analyze and you start to care about every single letter. And there's 26 letters in the alphabet, and there's uppercase as well. There's uppercase, there's lowercase, there's numerals. And then because it's cursive, there's combinations. So it is one thing to be able to draw consecutive letter B's, right? Or letter L's. L's probably actually, you know what? I was about to say L's are the easiest, but then again, the tricky thing is consistency, right? It's like, some of them are kind of high, some are kind of low, some are getting underneath. Consistency and accuracy. You'd think You would think that something that just because something's, simpler, that it's easier, and that's not the truth. That's not the truth. That's not how reality works. The reality. Sorry, that's not the reality. The reality is when something becomes simpler, then the consistency and the accuracy becomes more and more important. Right? What happens if I try to draw a letter M followed by a letter N? Right? You can see there's the hesitation. The handwriting is unforgiving. It is merciless. You can see every single bit of hesitation, especially if you choose a tool which specifically is made that it will show if you have, if you have no hesitation and you have absolute coordination, it will show that. If you have hesitation, it will show that as well. That's why this is a good tool. This is what you need. You need a diagnostic. You need something that will expose all of your flaws, and it will also showcase whatever perfections you've managed to perfect, you've worked on. It gives you, because people are always looking for progress, right? People are always like, "Oh, I'm practicing all this thing. I'm always doing all these exercises. I don't see any progress." Well, guess what? Here's a tool that gives you progress. This shows you progress. And people start to see, oh god, my handwriting is actually really really bad. Oh, this is really bad. Now I've really, well, yeah, it's showing you where you are in the world, where you are with your drawing or with your handwriting or with whatever skill it is. It's showing you, here's where you are on a map. And you know what? You have to confront it. You have to sit down and confront it. It's going to take so long, or that is your body. That's a survival instinct saying, I just need to save calories. I need to save. I got to find reasons to avoid running away from anything, to avoid confronting my problems, to avoid improvement. The improvement that you want. You want improvement. You want to get better at something, right? So sit down and get better at it, right? This is hard, right? I get that draw using a tool, using an exercise that is very hard. I get that it's hard, okay? But the thing is that we don't sharpen knives on Play-Doh. Okay? We don't sharpen knives on hunks of ice. There's a reason why they use, I don't know, like some kind of aluminum silicate carbide, whatever compound as the grit that makes up a whetstone. They use that because it's really hard and really sharp. You can't sharpen a knife on Play-Doh. You need a hard exercise. You need something that's really going to show. And the thing is that every single one of these letters, the A and the B, and the A, B, and the letter A and the C, and the letter C, A, C, right? These are all different parts on the blade. You're not just sharpening one blade, you're sharpening all parts of the blade. Every single, you're going to be, it's very permutative, it's very comprehensive. You go through all, from A to Z. And so this is why I like pangrams, right? Pangrams such as, you know, had trouble here because this is out of the sweet spot. Maybe I got to do it smaller. Oh, so whenever you start to run into problems, that's telling you, hey, there's a bump in the road. There's a little bump in the sheets that you got to iron out. All right. And so sitting down and ironing something out is actually quite satisfying. It's meditative even. And the thing is, you are getting better, not at everything all at once. You have to get better at little bits of time. That's why this stuff takes years, why it takes so long. And this is why it's actually valuable and important. Right. And this stuff eventually graduates into, right, the stuff like this. Right, being able to do something like this, radiating lines, right? This is kind of like the handwriting, or you're trying to build that swoosh energy, right? People, I often hear this. People are like, "Oh, the lines don't go where I want them to go," and I feel all this anxiety. And it's because you never confronted it. You have to confront your anxiety. You have to get there and deal with it. Like, let's see, what other exercise? Like, oh yeah, just good old circles, right? You want to build that swoosh energy up. And again, the reason for building up the swoosh energy is you're trying to get to that point where the drawing, the experience of the drawing, the actual feeling of it, the feeling of that activity begins to match, what you thought it should be, right? You want swooshy lines, you want the lines to go where you want that feeling of spontaneity. This is this is how you get there. This is part of it. It's not the perspective, it's not the composition, it's not exactly the character design. It's not a lot of things that we highlight and talk about drawing, and this is why a lot of people don't have this skill because nobody talks about it, right? I took the time to talk about it, right? This is how you get there. You can start with something like this, and the feeling of having taken a single letter or two letters or three letters and just learning to combo those suckers together. That's how it feels like to get good at anything. And so the next time you find yourself drawing, you're like, oh, I don't know how to draw eyes, don't know how to draw mouths. Just remember the time it was when you drew the letter A and you tried to find how should my letter A's look, right? Or what should my letter B's look like? How would I stylize? What would be the coolest letter B? The signature is not just a bunch of letters that you stuck together. This is like every single letter should be a signature. You should treat every single one of these. Ooh, ooh. Or maybe, yeah, maybe something kind of like this, right? This is the design work that goes in there. And you're just going to have to sit down and do it. You're going to have to sit down and you're going to have to whip the line around and figure out, what is that? What's that swoosh? What would the swooshiest version of this thing that I'm trying to draw be like?